The sky turned red. Not the soft red of a sunset, but the hard red of danger. Professor Linda Harrison stood in the observation room and watched the creature come down from the clouds. Like a falling mountain made of nightmares. It was big. The biggest thing Linda had ever seen. Its body looked like tentacles, but not the kind that lived in oceans. These tentacles were thick as tree trunks, covered in white bone-like spikes that caught the light. The creature moved with purpose, each tentacle moving like it had a mind of its own. The ground shook with each movement. The whole research station shook. Linda's hands were cold. She grabbed the metal edge of the console to keep from shaking herself. On the screens in front of her, red numbers flashed and jumped. Heat readings. Energy readings. Numbers that meant death. Dr. Kevin Palmer ran into the room. He was military. He had medals on his chest and scars on his face. His job was to keep the research station safe. He looked at the screens and then at Linda. "What is that?" he said. "The Vexthal," Linda said. Her voice was quiet. "We thought it had moved south. We thought it would not come here. How bad?" Linda pointed at the numbers on the screen. Kevin read them, and his face turned white. "That is impossible," he said. "No," Linda said. "It is very possible. And it is here." The creature's tentacle hit the force field that protected the station. The sound was like a bomb. The whole room moved. The windows cracked. Small cracks at first, then bigger ones. Kevin moved back from the window. "Get everyone to the lower levels," Linda said into her communicator. "Now, move fast. Do not wait for orders." People started to run in the hallway outside the window. Workers from the research station, scientists, engineers, security guards. They ran down the stairs and toward the safe areas. Linda watched them go and felt bad for them. She knew what was coming. Kevin was talking into his communicator too. "This is Palmer. We have a code red. The Vexthal is on the station grounds. I need backup. I need a military ship. I need help." But Linda knew help would not come in time. She turned to Kevin. 5 months ago, the Covenant Defense Fleet found one of these creatures. It was only the small kind, not the big kind like this one. 10,000 soldiers, all trained, all armed with the best weapons. The creature killed all of them before the fleet ran away. Kevin stared at her. "All of them?" "All of them," Linda said. Another crash. The windows broke more. Glass fell to the floor like rain. The force field was still working, but Linda could see it getting weaker. The blue light around the station was turning dark. Kevin started to press the evacuation button. This would send all the people in the lower levels to the escape ships. The ships would take them away from the station and into space. But before he could push the button, the door opened. A woman walked in. She wore a maintenance uniform, the kind that workers wore when they fixed machines and pipes. She was tall and had dark hair. Her name was Rebecca Matthews. She worked on the station for 2 years. Most people did not know her name. "Stop," Rebecca said. "You are going to let me go out there." Linda and Kevin looked at her like she was crazy. "No," Linda said. "You need to go to the escape ships. You need to leave this place." Rebecca did not move. She started to take off her uniform jacket. "That creature will break through the force field in 4 minutes, maybe 5. It will tear the station to pieces. When the station breaks, it will break into 3 parts. The main section will stay in place. The equipment will fall into the desert. And the people section will crash into the mountain." She pointed at the screens. Kevin looked at them. She was right. The structural damage from the creature's hits was adding up. The engineers had done good calculations. The station would break in about 5 minutes. "Everyone down there will die," Rebecca said. "Not just from the crash. from the creature itself. The Vextel does not stop. It does not get tired. It keeps coming and coming until everything is dead. Linda wanted to tell her she was wrong. But Linda was a scientist. She looked at the numbers and the facts. Rebecca was right. So what? Kevin said. He was angry because he was scared. If the creature is that strong, what can we do? Rebecca looked at Linda. You study these creatures. You have papers about them. What makes them do things? What makes them move around? Why do they come to places? Linda thought about her research. She had studied the Vextel for 5 years. She had made models and predictions. But most of those predictions were wrong because the creature did not act like the models said it would. They are territorial, Linda said slowly. She was starting to understand what Rebecca was thinking. They mark places with their own smell. They make the place their home. Once they mark a place, they stay there and fight anything that comes to it. How long does it take to mark a place? Rebecca asked. Days usually. Maybe a week, Linda said. But this one is different. The migration pattern was wrong. It was not supposed to be here. It is confused. Its behavior is not normal. Rebecca nodded. She looked at Kevin. Give me a suit. The kind that works in heat. And a flare gun. Nothing else. Kevin moved in front of her. You are not thinking right. That creature has skin that can stop laser fire. Plasma fire does nothing to it. You cannot fight it. I am not going to fight it, Rebecca said. She was calm. Too calm. I am going to make it go away. How? Kevin asked. Give me the suit and the flare gun. You will see. Linda watched Rebecca's face. She saw something there that she did not see in most people. No fear, just purpose. Just a person who had decided to do something and would do it. Kevin, Linda said. Give her the suit. Kevin was angry. She will die. Maybe, Rebecca said. But your wife is in that station. Your daughter is in that station. My sister is in that station. Thousands of people are in this station. If I do not do something, we all die. Kevin looked at Rebecca for a long time. Then he turned and walked to the equipment locker. He brought out a suit made for heat work. It was red and silver and had thick material on it. Rebecca put it on quickly. The flare gun was small and light. It was made to shoot a bright light far away. Nothing more. Kevin helped her with the suit seals. When he was done, he looked at her. You have maybe 5 minutes before that creature breaks through. That is enough, Rebecca said. She walked to the airlock. Linda and Kevin watched her go. The airlock door closed. Then it opened again, and Rebecca walked out into the desert. Above her, the creature screamed. It was a sound like nothing on Earth, like wind and death and rage all together. The force field flickered. Rebecca started to run. The tunnel opened into another cavern. This one was different. This one was vast. Rebecca's helmet lights could not reach the walls. They could not reach the ceiling. The space was so big that it felt like standing inside a mountain that had been hollowed out. The cavern floor was covered with stone formations, tall pillars of rock that looked like frozen trees. Hanging from above were stone icicles, but not made of ice, made of rock. They were called stalactites. Rebecca had read about them once. These ones were hundreds of feet long. Some of them had broken and lay on the ground like fallen swords. Rebecca moved deeper into the cavern. Her helmet lights showed the stone pillars around her. There was water here, too. The ground was wet and slippery. In some places, the water was deep. Rebecca had to walk carefully. She could hear the creature coming. It was still following. It had found its way through the smaller tunnel and was now in this bigger space, too. But there was something different about its sound now. It was not moving as fast. The creature was tired, maybe. Or it was being more careful. Rebecca could not tell. The important thing was that it was still coming. Rebecca walked deeper into the cavern. She was following a map in her head. A map she had made 2 years ago when she explored these caves in her free time. No one else knew about these caves. No one else had been this deep. That gave Rebecca an advantage. The cavern started to get warmer. Rebecca could feel it through her suit. The temperature was rising, not slowly, rising fast. The deeper she went, the hotter it got. The suit's cooling system was working harder. The AI voice in her helmet started warning her again. Core temperature rising. Cooling systems working at maximum capacity. Rebecca ignored the warnings. She was looking for something specific. A place where the earth itself was burning. A place where hot water came up from deep underground. A place called a geothermal area. When she had explored here 2 years ago, she had found one. She had documented it in her personal journal. She had even marked its location on a hand-drawn map. Now she needed to find it again. The creature's tentacle came around a stone pillar. Rebecca saw it and ran. She ran between the pillars, weaving left and right, using the rock formations as cover. The creature was too big to move fast between the pillars. Its tentacles could reach far, but the pillars blocked them. Rebecca made it to the other side of the cavern, where the heat was even stronger. The ground here was different. It was not smooth rock. It was rough and broken and looked fragile. The stone was colorful, red and yellow and white. Steam was coming up from cracks in the ground. This was it. This was the geothermal area. Rebecca moved carefully. One wrong step, and she could fall through the stone into the hot water below. The suit could protect her for maybe a minute. Then the heat would overwhelm the cooling systems, and the suit would fail. Then Rebecca would be cooked like meat in an oven. But the creature did not know this danger. The creature only knew that Rebecca had come here. The creature would follow. Rebecca moved to the narrowest tunnel in the area. It was a passage between 2 rock walls that got smaller and smaller as it went up. In the widest part, it was maybe 10 feet wide. In the narrowest part, it was maybe 3 feet wide. The passage was not long, maybe 50 feet, but it curved and twisted as it went. Rebecca pulled off her suit's emergency heating element. It was a small device, no bigger than her hand. It was designed to keep the suit warm in cold places. But here, turned to maximum power, it could do something else. It could turn the fragile stone very hot very fast. Rebecca moved back to the entrance of the tunnel and placed the heating element against the stone wall. The device started to glow red. Heat poured out from it. The stone around it started to change color, started to crack. She turned and ran. Behind her, the creature came through the geothermal area. It was slower here because it had to be careful too, but it was still coming. The creature did not care about danger. The creature only cared about catching what was running from it. Rebecca ran back toward the bigger cavern. She was looking for a place to hide, a place where the creature could not reach her. There, a crevice between 2 pillars. Just big enough for a person to fit into. Not big enough for a tentacle. Rebecca squeezed into the space and held her breath. The creature came around the pillar. It had 3 tentacles in the geothermal area now, moving through the hot steam, testing the ground, looking for the prey that had run away. The creature's skin was glowing now from the heat. The creature's tentacles were moving slower. And then the sound came. A crack. A long, grinding crack that echoed through the entire cavern. The stone was breaking. The heating element had done its work. The stone that Rebecca had heated was failing. The weight of the rock above, it was too much. The stone could not hold it anymore. Rebecca watched as a section of the tunnel collapsed. Stone fell into the passage. Rocks tumbled down. The narrow tunnel closed. The creature screamed. It was a sound of pain and rage and panic. One of its tentacles was in the tunnel. The falling stone had hit it. The creature pulled the tentacle back out and Rebecca could see it was crushed and bleeding, but the creature was still alive, and the tunnel was still partially open. The creature backed up. It was moving away from the hot area, moving back toward the bigger cavern. The pain was making it move faster. The creature was leaving. Rebecca was wrong about that. The creature was not leaving to escape. The creature was backing up to get more space to push with. It moved back 10 feet. Then it charged forward like a battering ram made of flesh and tentacles. It hit the collapsed tunnel section with all its weight. The cave shook. Dust fell like rain. Rocks tumbled everywhere. The creature was using its own body as a weapon, trying to break through the collapse by sheer force. It was working. The creature pushed through the rocks and stone. Its outer tentacles were being torn and shredded. Blood covered them, but the creature did not stop. It kept pushing. It kept forcing itself through the blocked passage. It was almost through when the second collapse started. The whole passage came down. Not just a section, the entire tunnel. The weight of the cavern above it came crashing down in a thunderous roar that Rebecca felt in her bones. The creature screamed. A long, terrible scream of an animal that knew it was dying. But the creature did not die fast. Rebecca could hear it in the rubble. She could hear the tentacles moving, trying to pull free, trying to dig out. The creature was strong enough to move boulders, strong enough to tear through almost anything. But the weight of a mountain was different. The weight of a mountain was final. Rebecca waited in her crevice between the stone pillars. She waited until the sounds from the rubble stopped. She waited until the creature went quiet. She waited until she was sure it was not coming back. Then she started to move. She had to find another way out of this cavern. She had to get back to the surface. She had to tell everyone that the creature was dead. Rebecca Matthews had killed the thing that had killed 10,000 soldiers. And she had done it by being smarter, by knowing the caves, by understanding that sometimes the best way to kill a monster was not to fight it. It was to make it kill itself. The heat hit Rebecca like a wall when she stepped out of the airlock. The suit's cooling system hummed and worked hard against the desert air. The temperature outside was 140 degrees. The rocks were hotter. Everything was burning hot. Rebecca did not think about the heat. She thought about running. The creature was behind her and to the left. She could hear it breaking the station apart. The sound of metal tearing. The sound of explosions. The sound of something dying. The research station. All those buildings and equipment. All of it falling into pieces. She ran along the cliff face. The cliffs here were red rock, carved by wind over thousands of years. There were deep grooves and shadows. Rebecca ran toward the deepest shadow of all, the one that meant a canyon entrance. She did not look back, but she could hear the creature moving. It was slow, but it was big, and each movement meant it was getting closer. The ground shook. The air itself seemed to shake. The creature's body was still inside the station, but it was pulling itself toward her. It was following her like a hunter follows a deer. Rebecca ran harder. The flare gun was heavy in her hand. She had trained with it once, 2 years ago, when she first came to this planet. The training officer had said it was for emergency rescue. Shoot it high. Shoot it far. Anyone within 50 kilometers could see the light. It would save your life. Rebecca hoped the training officer was right. The canyon entrance was ahead. It was dark and deep and looked like the mouth of something hungry. Rebecca ran toward it. Behind her, she heard the creature make a sound. Not a scream this time. A roar. A sound of hunger and anger and the need to kill. She fired the flare gun. The bright light shot into the canyon like a star falling down. It was so bright that Rebecca had to look away, but it went where she wanted it to go, deep into the darkness, burning like a piece of the sun. The light bounced off the cave walls and showed every rock and shadow. Rebecca ran after the light. The canyon got narrower as she went deeper. The walls got closer together. In some places, she had to move sideways to get through. The suit was bulky. It caught on rocks. Her shoulder hurt when the suit scraped against stone. But she kept moving. Behind her, the creature was in the canyon now. Rebecca could hear it coming. The sound of tentacles breaking against stone. The sound of the creature forcing its massive body through a space that was too small. The creature was strong enough to break rocks, strong enough to tear through metal, but it could not make itself smaller. That was the one thing it could not do. The canyon opened up into a bigger space. Rebecca ran through it and into another tunnel. This tunnel was lighter. The sun was still reaching in from the entrance far behind her, making long shadows on the stone floor. She looked back. The creature's tentacle was coming around the corner. It was thick like a building column and covered with those white bone spikes. The tentacle reached out, feeling the space, testing the walls. Rebecca ran faster. The tunnel curved upward. Rebecca's legs burned. Her lungs burned. The suit's cooling system was working harder and harder. It was making a loud sound now, like a fan that was about to break. But Rebecca did not stop. She could not stop. Behind her, she heard the creature squeeze into the tunnel. It screamed again, that terrible sound that was not like anything alive should make. The tentacle was starting to bleed where it had scraped on the sharp rocks. Thick red blood that glowed in the cave light. The creature could be hurt. That was important. It could be hurt, but it did not care about the pain. It kept coming. The tunnel made a sharp turn. Rebecca almost fell when she turned too fast. She put her hand out and felt the cold stone wall. Her glove was hot. Everything was hot. The suit's SI voice in her helmet said words about temperature, about core systems, about dangerous zones. Rebecca did not listen. She ran around the turn and found a bigger space. This was a cavern. The space was huge. The ceiling was so high that her helmet lights could not reach it. The floor was covered with small rocks and sand. In the middle of the cavern, there was a pool of water. Dark water that looked black. Rebecca ran toward the water. She could hear the creature in the tunnel behind her. The tunnels were narrow. That was good. That was why she had come this way. She had explored these caves 2 years ago in her free time. She had mapped them. She knew where they went and how they connected. The creature did not know. The creature was just following her light and her smell. Rebecca ran into the water. It was cold. So cold that her body wanted to stop working. But the suit protected her. The suit kept her alive. She ran through the water, splashing, moving toward the other side of the cavern. There was another tunnel there. It was smaller than the others. Behind her, the creature came into the cavern. It was even bigger in the open space. Now Rebecca could see it clearly for the first time. The main body was like a sack. A round sack with 6 major tentacles coming out of it. The tentacles were covered with eyes. Small eyes and big eyes, and eyes that glowed with bioluminescent light. The creature had hundreds of eyes, and they were all looking at her. The creature moved slower in the water, but it still moved. It was heavy and powerful, and nothing could stop it. Rebecca watched it wade through the pool. She watched it get closer. Then she ran into the small tunnel. The tunnel was so narrow that the creature's tentacles could not follow her. It tried. A tentacle came into the tunnel, but it could only go so far. The stone walls blocked it. The creature pushed and pushed, but the tentacle bent and twisted and could not go deeper. Rebecca heard the tentacle pull back out. She heard the creature roar again. It was a roar of frustration, of anger, of not understanding why something was blocking it. But the creature was smart. That was the scary part. It started to find another way around. Rebecca ran deeper into the tunnel. She knew there was another way forward. There was always another way in these caves. The caves were old and complex. They had been carved by water and time, and they connected to each other in ways that the creature would take time to understand. And time was what Rebecca needed. She ran deeper into the darkness. The sound of her breath loud in her helmet, the sound of the creature following far behind. She was ahead now. She had room to breathe. She had room to think, and Rebecca Matthews had a plan. A plan that was crazy and dangerous and might get her killed, but it was the only plan that might save everyone else. Rebecca moved through the darkness. Her helmet lights were the only thing keeping her from being completely blind. The cavern was full of dust from the collapse. The dust floated in the air and made everything gray and hard to see. She could not go back the way she came. The tunnel was blocked. The passage that led to the main canyon was gone, buried under tons of rock and stone and maybe the dead body of the creature. Rebecca did not know and did not want to know. She just needed to find another way out. She had explored these caves 2 years ago, but she had not explored every passage. She had not gone down every tunnel. The caves were too big. There was too much to explore. But she remembered the general shape of the place. The cavern had multiple tunnels leading away from it. At least 4 of them. She just had to find one that went up instead of down. Rebecca walked carefully around the fallen rocks. The dust was settling now. She could see more clearly. The geothermal area was behind her. The heating element had burned out when she activated it. All that heat was gone now. The steam was not rising anymore. She made it to the edge of the cavern where 3 tunnels opened up like mouths. One went down. Rebecca could tell by the way the air flowed and the way the stones sloped. That one would take her deeper. Deeper was bad. Deeper was where the hot water was. Deeper was where the creature might still be alive and trapped. One tunnel went straight ahead. Rebecca could feel a slight breeze coming from it. That was good. Breeze meant air. Air meant a connection to the outside world. Air meant a way out. Rebecca chose the middle tunnel and started walking. The tunnel was narrow but tall. The ceiling was high above her. She could not see the top. The walls on both sides were close. In some places, they were just a few feet apart. In other places, they were farther. The floor was slippery with moisture. Rebecca had to move carefully so she would not fall. Her suit was making warning sounds again. The cooling system was working hard. The temperature inside the suit was rising. Rebecca looked at the display in her helmet. The suit's temperature was 120 degrees. That was too hot. That was dangerous. But she could not stop. She had to keep moving. How long had she been in the caves? Rebecca tried to count time in her head. She had left the station maybe an hour ago. Maybe longer. It was hard to tell. Time moved differently when you were running for your life. When every second meant something, the tunnel started to go up. The slope got steeper. Rebecca had to use her hands sometimes to pull herself up. The stone was rough and hurt her palms even through the suit's gloves. But she did not care about pain. Pain meant she was alive. Pain meant she was still moving. Behind her, she heard something. A sound from far away. Like grinding stone. Like something heavy moving. Rebecca stopped and listened. The creature was moving. It was alive. Rebecca did not wait to hear more. She ran up the tunnel. Her legs burned. Her lungs burned. Everything hurt. But she ran. The tunnel was getting steeper. The air was getting cooler. That meant she was going up. That meant she was getting closer to the surface. The tunnel opened into another cavern. This one was smaller than the last one. The ceiling was low. The stone walls were covered with water drips. The floor was wet and muddy. In the middle of the floor was a small pool of water. Clear water that reflected her helmet lights like a mirror. Rebecca looked at the pool and saw her own face. She looked terrible. Her face was covered with dirt and dust. Her eyes looked tired and scared and angry. She looked like a person who had been running from death and winning, but barely. There were 3 more tunnels leading away from this cavern. Rebecca chose one that went up and forward. She was getting close. She could feel it. The air was getting fresher. The breeze was getting stronger. She started to climb. The tunnel got steeper and steeper until it was almost vertical. Rebecca had to grab onto rocks and stone formations to pull herself up. Her arms screamed. Her fingers were bleeding inside the suit gloves. The suit's eye was making constant beeping sounds about the rising temperature. Rebecca ignored it all. And then she saw light. Real light. Not the artificial light from her helmet. Natural light. Sunlight coming from above. The sun from the outside world. Rebecca climbed faster. She pulled herself up and out of the tunnel and found herself on a rock ledge. Below her was a ravine, deep and wide. But above her was sky, blue sky. The sun was starting to set and painting the sky with colors. Orange and red and gold. Rebecca had never seen anything more beautiful. She looked at her suit display. The battery was running low. The cooling system was failing. The suit had maybe 30 minutes of life left before it would stop working. Before the heat would take over and kill her, just like it had tried to kill the creature. But Rebecca did not need 30 minutes. She just needed to get down the ravine and back to the station. Or what was left of the station. She started to climb down. The rocks were sharp and cut the suit. Small cuts that started to let heat in. Rebecca could feel the temperature rising inside the suit. The cooling system was losing the battle. But she kept climbing. Down and down and down. Hand over hand. Foot over foot. And then she heard it again. From the darkness of the ravine below her. The sound of the creature moving. It had followed her out of the main cave system. It had found another passage. Another way out. And it was coming up the ravine toward her. Rebecca looked up at the distance to the top of the ravine. Maybe 100 feet. Maybe more. The rocks were getting worse. Getting more broken. Getting harder to climb. The suit was failing. The temperature was 130 degrees now. 130-5. Rebecca climbed harder. She could hear the creature coming closer. The sound of tentacles on stone. The sound of something big and angry and hurt but not dead. The creature was bleeding and broken and probably in pain. But the creature was still coming. Rebecca's hands were numb. She could not feel the rocks anymore. Just the motion of pulling herself up. Up and up and up. The sun was getting lower. The light was getting redder. She grabbed one more rock and pulled herself up, and suddenly she was out of the ravine. She was on flat ground. Desert ground. And she could see the canyon entrance in the distance. The passage that led back to the station. Behind her, the creature came out of the ravine, but Rebecca did not wait to watch it. She ran toward the canyon. Her legs were dead, but they moved anyway. Her suit was failing, but it held. Her body was broken, but it kept going, and she made it to the canyon entrance just as her suit's cooling system died. Completely she collapsed on the ground and waited for the heat to take her. But rescue came instead. A figure in a blue suit ran toward her. It was Kevin. It was Kevin Palmer running across the desert to pull her to safety. Rebecca had survived. Kevin grabbed Rebecca and pulled her away from the canyon entrance. He pulled her across the hot desert sand until they reached a sheltered area behind some large rocks. Only then did he stop and check her suit. The cooling system was completely dead. The power cells were burned out. But the suit's insulation had held long enough. Rebecca was alive. Burned and hurt and exhausted, but alive. The creature, Rebecca said. Her voice was hoarse. Her throat felt like she had swallowed sand and fire. Is it still coming? Kevin looked back at the canyon entrance. The sun was low on the horizon now. The shadows were getting long. The desert was turning orange and red. It has not come out, Kevin said. You were out of that canyon for 3 minutes before I found you. If it was going to come out, it would have come out by now. It is still alive, Rebecca said. I heard it in the caves. It followed me out. Kevin was examining her suit with a handheld scanner. The display showed the damage inside and outside the suit. Everything was overheated. Everything was failing. But the important parts had held. Your sister is okay, Kevin said. He was not looking at Rebecca. He was looking at the scanner. But Rebecca heard the words, and they meant everything. Everyone at the secondary shelter is okay. When the main station came down, we got everyone out. We lost some buildings. We lost a lot of equipment. But we did not lose people. Rebecca closed her eyes. The fear that had been keeping her moving had a place to go now. It leaked out of her. She started to shake. Kevin sat down next to her and did not say anything. He just sat there while Rebecca shook and breathed and tried to remember how to be a normal person instead of someone running for her life. In the distance, the seismic sensors that Kevin had set up started to make sounds, beeping and chirping and sending data to the portable monitoring station. The ground was moving. Below the desert, below the canyon, something massive was happening in the caves. Kevin looked at the readouts. His eyes got bigger. The cave system is collapsing, he said. The whole eastern section just came down. It is like an explosion happened underground. Rebecca thought about the creature. She thought about it trapped under tons of rock. She thought about the weight of a mountain pressing down on something that could move and think and feel. It is dying, Rebecca said. Or it is already dead. The seismic readings continued. The ground under the desert was moving and shaking and falling. The cave system was breaking apart. The tunnel that had led Rebecca out was probably gone now. Sealed, buried. The geothermal area was probably destroyed. The passage where the creature had been trapped was becoming a tomb. It took maybe 10 minutes for the shaking to stop. Then silence. Complete silence except for the wind coming across the desert and the sound of Rebecca breathing. Kevin was looking at his scanner, his eyes following the data coming from the sensors far below. Then he looked at Rebecca and he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was a tired smile. A smile from someone who had seen the worst and lived anyway. The heat signatures are gone, Kevin said. The creature is not moving anymore. The energy readings are dropping. The readings are dropping. Whatever was down there is not alive anymore. Rebecca did not say anything. She just lay on the desert ground and watched the sunset. The sky turned from orange to red to purple to blue. Stars started to come out. Real stars. Not the artificial lights of the station. The actual stars of the universe. By the time full darkness came, rescue ships were landing. Not escape ships. Not the small emergency vehicles. Real rescue ships from the orbital base. They had received Kevin's message. They had heard about the crisis. They had come down to help. Soldiers came out of the ships first. They had weapons and armor and looked ready to fight. But there was nothing to fight anymore. The creature was gone. The danger had passed. The medical team was next. They took Rebecca to one of the ships and put her in a medical pod. The pod scanned her body and found the burns and the damage and started to treat her. She fell asleep to the sound of the machine working. 2 days later, Rebecca woke up in a recovery room. Her hands were bandaged. Her arms were bandaged. Her legs were bandaged. Most of her body was bandaged. But she was alive. Professor Linda Harrison was in the room when Rebecca woke up. Linda was holding a tablet and looking at data and looking tired. When she saw Rebecca's eyes open, She sat down next to the bed. "We have confirmed the death," Linda said without preamble. "The seismic data shows the creature stopped moving 14 minutes after the cave collapse. The body is still down there, buried under at least 200 meters of rock. The Vextel is dead." Rebecca tried to say something, but her throat was too dry. Linda gave her water. Rebecca drank it slowly. "You killed something that the Covenant Defense Fleet could not kill," Linda said. "You killed something that took 10,000 soldiers to push back. You did it alone. You did it with a flare gun and knowledge of caves and courage that I have never seen before." "I did not kill it," Rebecca said when she could speak. "It killed itself. I just made it go to the place where it could happen." "That is not how they will tell the story," Linda said. She was smiling a little. "They will tell the story of a maintenance worker from Earth who looked at an impossible situation and found a way to win. They will tell the story for a long time." Rebecca did not care about stories. She cared about her sister being alive. She cared about Kevin standing over her with relief on his face. She cared about the rescue team that had come to take them away from that terrible place. Over the next week, reporters came to interview Rebecca. Military officials came to ask her questions. Scientists came to study what she had done and how she had done it. Rebecca told them the truth. She had explored the caves. She had remembered what she had seen. She had thought about what the creature needed and wanted. She had used those things against it. One reporter asked her if she was afraid. When she was running from the creature, Rebecca thought about that question. She had been afraid. She had been terrified. She had been running so hard that her heart felt like it would explode. But she had kept running anyway. "Yes," Rebecca said, "but fear is just a thing that tells you what is important." The creature was important. The people at the station were important. So I stayed afraid, but kept moving anyway. The colony was saved. The people who had been in the shelter were brought out and given food and water. The station was being rebuilt. New buildings were being brought down from the orbital base. Life was returning to normal. But everything was different. Everyone on the colony knew that a maintenance worker named Rebecca Matthews had stopped an alien creature that had killed 10,000 trained soldiers. Everyone knew that sometimes the most important person in a crisis is not the one with the most weapons or the most training. Sometimes it is the person with the most courage. Rebecca was released from the medical pod after 2 weeks. She could walk again. Her hands still hurt, but they were healing. She stood in the doorway of her quarters and looked out at the desert where she had run for her life. In the distance, the canyon stood against the red sky. The cave entrance was sealed now, the rocks blocking the way in. The creature was down there, dead in the darkness. Rebecca took a breath of the cool, recycled air and felt something inside her relax. She had survived. The colony had survived. And humanity had learned something new. Sometimes the smallest person can stop the biggest monster. Sometimes courage and intelligence matter more than strength. Sometimes a single human being is enough to change everything.